What happens here with Derek Carr? Because no one, I spoke to a league source, someone very prominent executive, and what he said to me was, no one's taking on that contract. Like, he's not sure because he basically texted me, Carr with the exploding head emoji, like, what the heck?
I love that emoji.
Yeah, and I was like, and then he said, why do you think? He said they're not playing him and probably not practicing him just to preserve injury, right? I said, yeah, and he goes, and the next line was, nobody's taking that contract though. Okay, so you tell me, chances are they could potentially have to cut him. He has a no trade clause in his deal. That extension that he signed. It does have a 1 year out. This is the trap door right here, $5.6 million for a cap hit. But then as you advance it forward, you're looking at like $32 million in base salary. Then it bumps up to $42 million in base salary. I agree. Most teams probably aren't going to want that. Say he's released. Where do you think, you look out there, he's not washed. People, there are going to be teams that want him. Where would you put him?
That's such a good question. I know. I'm like running through the teams that might need a quarterback, and I'm like, okay, the Giants, like, I think that they'd rather have Daniel Jones than Derek Carr. I guess it depends what kind of contract, but I do think it'd be interesting in terms of Brian Daboll's offense, and I think that Derek Carr could have success in that offense. Seahawks, I don't think he's going there. 49ers, I was curious what you would think about that. I mean, because also if they need someone who's not going to be there that long, you eventually get Trey Lance back in the room. I don't know what you're doing with Jimmy. Could he be a bridge to Trey Lance? I'm not saying that they play the same way, but could he be someone who can keep the show running again, as we've seen, if Brock Purdy can do it in that offense? Now, the question is, if Brock Purdy can do it in that offense, why do you need a contract like Derek Carr's? But I do think that there's some interest there. Lions would be another one that I think that they just have a lot of talent if they want someone to plug in if they decide not to roll with Goff. What do you think?
I think if we're looking at teams that could put him on the field and hopefully instantaneously, and we can't really even count on this anymore after seeing what happened with Russell Wilson in Denver, but in theory, put him on the field and start either, just turn the key on an offense or at least quickly advance the futures of the team. I think Carolina's one that there's a lot of talent in Carolina. They're going to be looking for a quarterback. I tend to believe David Tepper is going to want a longer term fix than Derek Carr. He needs to, like, what Tepper wants to hear is
also, who's his coach?
Right. Who's his coach? And Tepper wants to hear, this is our quarterback for the next 10 years, 15 years. That's the kind of quarterback that Tepper wants. That's not Derek Carr. The Jets, okay, that's another team that everyone is.
Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be there?
Aaron Rodgers, we'll get to Rodgers in a second. If Jimmy Garoppolo is the default there, which everybody says, look at the staff, look at the familiarity, it makes sense for Jimmy Garoppolo to go there. It's pretty clear, I think, at this point that Zach Wilson's probably done in New York long term. They're going to have to figure out how to try to offload him. Can Carr survive? I hate to say this, but it's a inclement weather. Like, you and I have been in that stadium, right? We've been there. We've seen it. Like, it sucks. It's especially when it gets cold. Okay, it gets windy. It's crappy. There are a lot of cold weather games. Rodgers fits perfectly, no question. Guys come from Green Bay, no issue there whatsoever. Garoppolo had a stint with the Patriots, obviously in cold weather, so he knows some of that. It gets, it can get chilly in Santa Clara as well. But I would say that Carr is the one where I'm like, okay. Is he a guy that can hack it in a really cold weather, brutal kind of, hey, December on, you're going to have to play some tough weather games?